This is the AHSAA Weekly, your inside look at everything happening with the Alabama High School Athletic Association. I'm John Holder. Coming up on this week's program, retired Assistant Executive Director for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Tony Stallworth, joins us as we look ahead to the state finals next week at the Legacy Arena in Birmingham. Also coming up on this week's show, we'll take you to last week's North Super Sectional Wrestling up in Huntsville. We'll speak with T. Adams, the wrestling coach at Vestavia Hills High School, and also 7th grader Lena Johansson from Weaver High School, the first female to ever win a match in AHSAA wrestling history. Also coming up this week, our blast from the past, former University of Alabama legend Wendell Hudson had his jersey retired at the Alabama LSU basketball game over the weekend. We'll take you to that. And also, the Director of Communication for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Ron Ingram, joins us as we go down memory lane and talk about some of the great moments in state finals history. All of that and more coming up on this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly.
Don't crack under the pressure of foundation issues. The certified specialists at Ox Foundation Solutions can permanently fix foundation problems at the best price, guaranteed. If you are experiencing foundation issues, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
WOTM, your home for high school sports in Alabama. Tune to WOTM Monday, February 24th for the first tip of the AHSAA Basketball Championships live from Birmingham. And stay with WOTM until the final champion is crowned Saturday night. All 42 games will be live on WOTM. WOTM is available to all cable TV providers in Alabama. If WOTM is not a part of your provider's channel lineup, call and request that they add WOTM.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly. We're going to take you to Montgomery now. Very privileged to be joined by a special guest this week, Mr. Tony Stallworth, a now retired former Associate Executive Director of the Alabama High School Athletic Association, also a great basketball player, great basketball coach in the state of Alabama, and obviously now with the regionals winding down and the state tournament being set for Birmingham next week, it's a great time to talk basketball. Coach Stallworth, welcome in. Glad to have you with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
Glad to be here, and thank you so very much for the opportunity to be a part of your show.
Mr. Stallworth, let's begin. You grew up in one of the towns, when I think of high school basketball in the state of Alabama, especially small schools. One of the schools I think about is J.F. Shields High School down in Beatrice in northern Monroe County. Great basketball community with a lot of tradition. You played there. You played with a legendary coach there. You also had a chance to see John Drew, one of the greats that has ever come out of our state to play high school basketball. You are part of that tradition. Just tell us about J.F. Shields in Beatrice, Alabama.
Well, J.F. Shields in Beatrice, Alabama is a community where basketball, should I say, is utmost the very first things on everybody's menu, so to speak. When I played there was no baseball. Football was on the rise, but basketball was one of the things that everybody wanted to do. And what happened was, if your brother played, if your uncle played, that gave you an opportunity. That, you know, that was your trial. Coach Abbott always looked at those relatives that played in the past for us and gave us an opportunity. But basketball was king in J.F. Shields High School.
And you went on to not only be a great coach, but a very successful state championship coach at another phenomenal athletic program at a small school in South Alabama over in Crenshaw County at Brantley. You won multiple state boys championships at Brantley. Had some pretty good talent over there as well. Tell us about your time at Brantley.
Well, Brantley was a situation where I was very fortunate. Another teammate of mine, Jerome Sanders, was at Laverne High School, and he was pretty much settled in. I was in Monroeville, and he called me and said, there's a job opening at Crenshaw County. I'm not going to take it. I'm going to give you an opportunity. I said, well, I'll take it. So I got there. When I got there, of course, it was Wesley, Person, and Aubrey Wilder. They were all upperclassmen, and I became the assistant coach. 2 years out, they get out, they leave. I became the head coach. But at the time, I had the middle school program. And that middle school program had a few persons on it as well, Derek Carwell and a few more, Jimmy Burnett. And we were like 48-0 and just waiting on an opportunity. That opportunity finally came. So we jumped in and we had to play the schedule that Coach Henderson had left. We're talking Dothan, Enterprise, Greenville. Oh, it was mass murder sometimes. But those little kids I had got out there, took those whippings, grew up real quick, and wow, it blew up from there. We went from there to 93, winning the first championship in the history of the school. Of course, football followed in that fall. And of course, we were in 93, probably that was the last time before the regionals existed. Then we went on to 94 to come to Birmingham and won. We changed classes in 95, and here's the unfortunate situation. We had to play J.F. Shields, my alma mater, at Baymanat. And boy, it was some family things going on down there, and I had the Brantley crowd behind me, and I had the J.F. Shields crowd on the other side, and I kind of like just stood in the on the 50-yard line, just kind of weed left to right. And we were fortunate to win that. But J.F. Shields had won it the year before along with us in 2A, and if we had never been put in Class 2A, J.F. Shields probably would have won it again that year too. So I had to kind of live that down in Sunday school and in the community too. But when they lost, they switched over and they became our fans as well. We had a very good relationship between J.F. Shields and Brantley, and I was glad that we could foster that because that was good for both communities, really was.
Coach Stallworth, you've seen a lot of high school basketball in Alabama. You've seen a lot of changes through the years. You were in elementary school when the AIAA and the AHSAA merged, and then you talked about growing up and playing and coaching throughout the history of the AHSAA. Then you were on board for 7 years as an associate executive director of the Alabama High School Athletic Association. Talk about the merger of the two organizations, then take us through the changes from going from Tuscaloosa, Auburn, splitting the two university campuses there, and then now to the big state finals concept in Birmingham at the Legacy Arena. You've seen it all down through the years. Just reflect back on all the changes in basketball.
Well, I could see the change. I'm glad I came in within the change because, like I said, we played the last year in 93 at Coleman in Tuscaloosa, and of course we got locked in because of snow. We didn't get back on until Monday, but it was a happy moment because we won. But what I think that has given all of us coaches, minority coaches, an opportunity to expand because of the merger. You know, basketball or sports in general, what it does is it brings people together, and everybody just see sports as a metaphor of closeness, and it generates a lot of spirit. And I think with that merger coming in and not what you call excluding anybody, but including all, it gave student athletes an opportunity to be seen on a larger stage, especially when the regional tournament and all expanded and getting a chance to go to Birmingham. Let me tell you something, getting on that stage, you'll be amazed or who may see you. I went there back in '72. That was limited, but Buddy, when we came through and it expanded, it just brought so much. And bringing kids out of a low socioeconomic environment like at J.S. Shields or even Brantley being township, it was a phenomenal. Coming on college campus and being in that environment, I think it was the very best thing that could have ever happened. I'm glad I was able to see it all both and was a contributor in it as a student athlete, as a coach, and of course as a associate executive director. It was just, hey, I'm gonna tell you something. That was that closed my chapter, so to speak.
Coach Stallworth, you've been a keen observer of high school basketball in the state of Alabama. I'm sure that will continue next week with the state finals at the Legacy Arena in Birmingham. Thank you so much for being our guest with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
Thanks for having me.
Tony Stallworth, retired Associate Executive Director of the Alabama High School Athletic Association, our guest here with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly. Back in just a moment.
WOTM, your home for high school sports in Alabama. Tune to WOTM Monday, February 24th for the first tip of the AHSAA Basketball Championships live from Birmingham. And stay with WOTM until the final champion is crowned Saturday night. All 42 games will be live on WOTM. WOTM is available to all cable TV providers in Alabama. If WOTM is not a part of your provider's channel lineup, call and request that they add WOTM.
We are back on the AHSAA Weekly. State wrestling last week up in Huntsville. David Holsford caught up with the head coach of the Vestavia Hills Rebels, T. Adams.
T. Adams, Vestavia Hills, Alabama, Vestavia Hills High School. This tournament's been real good for our kids. They wrestled fantastic today. We're going to finish second. I couldn't be more proud of our kids in this setting. They showed great leadership, great camaraderie with one another to get the job done.
David Holtzford also had a chance to catch up with 7th grade wrestler from Weaver High School, Lena Johansson.
It feels great. I feel like it's a big accomplishment, but this weekend I plan to do more than just be the first female to win a match. I want to do really well this weekend, and I'm going to represent for all women out there.
Lena won her first round match in the 1A through 5A 106-pound division by medical forfeit, the first official match win by a female wrestler in the AHSAA State Wrestling Tournament's 65-year history. Shelby Fugate followed up in the first round of consolation wrestling with a pin in Class 6A to become the first female to record a pin in state tournament history. Congratulations to Thompson for winning their 3rd year in a row in Class 7A, Gardendale winning for the first time since back-to-back state titles in 1974 and 1975 in Class 6A, and Arab back on top in Class 1A through 5A.
Without our contest officials, we would have no contest. I truly encourage our parents to be a shining example of sportsmanship regarding our contest officials and setting an example for everyone, as well as coaches and fans across this state, to treat our officials with respect.
Hot under the collar because your basement is full of water? Call a local company you can trust. Ox Foundation Solutions. We use the most advanced water management system to stop water from invading your basement for good. Things feeling a little uneven at home? Ox Foundation Solutions will fix your uneven concrete sidewalk, driveway, or basement in no time. Ox Foundation Solutions has the best plan to keep your home safe. If you are experiencing any issues with your sidewalks, basement, crawl space, or foundation, get a free estimate from Ox Foundations.
WOTM, your home for high school sports in Alabama. Tune to WOTM Monday, February 24th for the first tip of the AHSAA Basketball Championships live from Birmingham. And stay with WOTM until the final champion is crowned Saturday night. All 42 games will be live on WOTM. WOTM is available to all cable TV providers in Alabama. If WOTM is not a part of your provider's channel lineup, call and request that they add WOTM.
This is the AHSAA Weekly. This week, we're going to take you down to the AHSAA offices in Montgomery. We're going to speak with the Director of Communication for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, Ron Ingram. Not only is Ron the Director of Communication, but there'll be no one more well-versed to talk about what we're about to talk about right now, and that's some of the great memories of the state high school basketball tournament down through the years. Ron, welcome in. Glad to have you with us this week as we bear down on the state finals coming next week to the Legacy Arena in Birmingham.
Thanks, John. I'm glad this is a 3-hour show if we're going to be talking about these memories. I know you've been to a lot of the state championships too, but boy, does it bring back great memories this time of year, every single year.
Let's go all the way back to 1978 and an all-Birmingham final. Tell us about that great game in 1978 between Parker and Carver.
You know, that's the first state basketball tournament that I actually covered from beginning to end. Dothan High came into that tournament ranked number 1 in the state. They had Carl Mitchell and James Smith, a pair of 6'9" power forwards, and Parker handled them pretty easily in the semifinals. But in the championship game, the arena was packed for the first time. I think it held 15,046 fans, but so there were at least 15,047 in there. And they were all standing at the end because when the game ended, the score was Carver was leading 67-66. These two big rivals. Eddie Phillips got fouled, John, went to the line, no time left, no one on the court but the official, Eddie, and everybody watching, holding their breath. And down by 1 point, if he makes one, they tie and go into overtime. If he makes 2, they win. If he misses 2, they lose. Well, the first shot he shot was an air ball. The second shot rolled around the rim and it fell out, and Carver won the state championship 67-66 over their arch rivals. What made history though was what happened next. The place was just booming with just enthusiasm and noise and cheering. And Coach Cap Brown, he was about 5'7". He ran out onto that court and picked up big old 6'7" Eddie Phillips in his arms, held him up and put him down and just hugged him like you would not believe. And then the whole place got deathly silent. Even in a loss, Coach Cap Brown found a way to steal the moment. And later I asked Eddie Phillips, I asked Cap Brown first, I said, what did you tell Eddie when you went out to hug him? And he says, first off, he says, I told him I ought to kick him all the way back to Birmingham because we just lost the game. He laughed. I'm not sure he said that. But then he said, he said, Eddie, there was not a player on the team that wanted anybody else at the line more than other than you. And he says, I'm going to love you till the day I die. And Eddie Phillips and I later became great friends, and I asked him about that same moment. And he said that he thought his world had come to an end till his coach told him he loved him. And he said after that he realized, we'll get through this. And the very next year, he was at the Sugar Bowl playing for the University of Alabama in the Sugar Bowl tournament during the Sugar Bowl Classic. And he went to the foul line against Virginia in the same situation, had to make two to tie the game, and he made both free throws.
Awesome.
Pretty amazing story.
Great story, great memory. Also, not only the boys' side, but we have a lot of years of girls' memories as well. Some of the great memories involve one of the greatest players in state history, Tanya Tice, who played at a couple of different schools.
Wow.
Your memories of Tanya Tice?
Whew, Tanya Tice, my goodness. So she started out as a 7th grader in pigtails, if you remember, John, playing at Phil Campbell High School. She was moved to the varsity. The team was like 1-11, and she was moved from the junior high, middle school team up to the varsity. They finished 19-12 and lost in the state 2A finals. The next year, she had Phil Campbell back in the state finals. Then her dad got the head football coaching job at Pell City. Pell City won 4 games the year before she got there, but as a freshman, she led Pell City to the state championship. The next year, they got back to the Final Four, and then her mother got real sick, and they decided to move back home to Hamilton, where they were from, to Marion County, and he took the job at Hamilton High School. And that first year, her junior year, she led Hamilton to the state championship. And then the next year, Pell City and Hamilton met in the finals. Her old school and her new school met in the finals. Pell City, Coach Joyce Beatty's team, who Joyce coached the year before, won the state championship pretty handily. But what happened next is what I think we'll all remember. The MVP award was given to Tanya Tice. I don't think anybody in the building disagreed with that choice. And she got a 15-minute standing ovation. Everybody in the place was just so proud of what she had accomplished. But what made it even better is the mascot, the big panther for the Pell City Panthers, walked over to their friend Tanya Tice and picked her up and hugged her, and there was not a dry eye in the house. It was an awesome moment, one of the greatest moments in sportsmanship I think we'll ever witness.
Ron, as we bring things forward to more recent days, the name Cade Milliken from Plainview High School up in Rainsville in DeKalb County will always go down in state history because he did something I don't think has ever been done before. The game-winning shot at the buzzer to win a state championship in 2 consecutive years. Just unbelievable to even think about that.
It really is, John. He became a member of the Plainview Bears thanks in part to our home school rule that allows a student who's a homeschool student to enroll at the local school and participate with the local school. And he knew all of those kids. He went to church with a lot of them. And his junior year, they were playing Hillcrest Evergreen, and Hillcrest Evergreen, what a great basketball team they were. The game went into overtime, and it was the Class 3A finals. A kid from Hillcrest hit a shot with about 3.5 seconds left in overtime to put them up. That tied the game, I believe, 75-all. It was a quick pass made to Cade, a long pass down to the corner. He went up, and just as the ball left his hand, the buzzer sounded, and he stripped a 3-point shot about 25 feet out to give his team the championship 78-75. That was in 2018. Roll it forward to 2019. Now they're playing Westminster Christian in the state finals, I believe it was. last year, and they're inbounding the ball with a chance to win. His brother is bringing the ball in, and everybody's expecting the ball to go to Plainview's three-point shooters. And sure enough, they led the nation last year in three-point shooting for boys. But instead, Coach Robbie Coker called a play that he had picked up watching Butler beat Winter Garden in a tournament a few years earlier. And Cade rolled around the backside, and everybody went to the three-point shooters, and his brother made a perfect pass to him, and he did a layup at the buzzer for them to win their second state championship, 54-52. My goodness, what a crowd, what a night. Just imagine having a game-winning shot ever, much less in a state championship, but doing it 2 years in a row. I don't think that'll ever happen again, except maybe in the Alabama High School Athletic Association State Basketball Tournament.
Ron, as you said earlier, we could literally sit here for hours and go down memory lane. The good news is next week we're going to create more of those memories at the state finals at the Legacy Arena in Birmingham, and folks can watch all of that unfold because all of those games, semifinals and finals, boys and girls, 1A through 7A, will be right here broadcast statewide on WOTM. Looking forward to another great, maybe historic and memorable state finals in Birmingham next week.
I agree with you, John, but I want to know, what's your favorite memory? You've seen a lot of state championships. You've called a lot of those games. What's one of your favorite memories?
Oh, there's so many of those, but I remember going back in the early 80s when I was probably in junior high, being down in Tuscaloosa at Coleman Coliseum, and somehow I got stuck in the student section of Carver of Birmingham, and Carver of Birmingham playing Carver of Montgomery in the 4A. There were only four classifications. In state championship, the place was packed, sellout crowd just about at Coleman Coliseum. And Carver of Montgomery had a guy named Andre Bruce that played at Auburn, played for the Atlanta Falcons, also had another guard on that team, Greg Payne, this wide receiver at the University of Alabama as well. They were on that Carver team beating Carver of Birmingham, and it was pretty wild being in that Carver of Birmingham student section down in Tuscaloosa. But that's just one of many down through the years. Ron, thank you so much for being with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
Appreciate it, John. And that Andre Bruce was the #1 draft pick in the NFL coming out of Auburn.
Absolutely.
#1 pick. I remember that too. Great memories, John. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Great basketball player as well. Ron Ingram, Director of Communication for the Alabama High School Athletic Association, with us this week on the AHSAA Weekly.
WOTM, your home for high school sports in Alabama. Tune to WOTM Monday, February 24th for the first tip of the AHSAA Basketball Championships live from Birmingham. And stay with WOTM until the final champion is crowned Saturday night. All 42 games will be live on WOTM. WOTM is available to all cable TV providers in Alabama. If WOTM is not a part of your provider's channel lineup, call and request that they add WOTM.
Wrapping up this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly, time for this week's Blast from the Past. And this week's Blast from the Past is former Parker High School standout and University of Alabama star Wendell Hudson. He led the Thundering Herd to the AHSAA Class 4A State Basketball Championship in 1969 and a 73-70 win over city rival Carver. The championship climaxed the first AHSAA state tournament after the merger of the Alabama Interscholastic Athletic Association and the AHSAA. Hudson went on to become the first black student athlete to sign an athletic scholarship at the University of Alabama and led the Crimson Tide in laying the groundwork for Alabama's 3 straight SEC championships under Coach C.M. Newton from 1974 through 76. Hudson later returned to UA to become the Crimson Tide women's basketball coach, and last weekend, Hudson's number 20 jersey became the first ever retired in University of Alabama history. The ceremony was held prior to the Tide's upset win over LSU. We would like to thank the University of Alabama for sharing this video, capping that moment for Wendell Hudson, and also you can watch the full video at WBRC Fox 6's website.
I never thought that when I started playing basketball, I was going to get a scholarship somewhere and I was going to play in college and all that. I just wanted to play because I could play. You know, that my Birmingham growing up, that's a very interesting question because I grew up and I went to Parker High School. And when I say that today, people say, oh, Parker High School, that area. Well, that's not the area that's not the world I grew up in.
Wendell graduated from Alabama in 1973, capping his remarkable career by winning SEC Player of the Year, the first in Alabama's history.
You go back to Vivian Malone, and you think back to Arthurine Lucy, and Wendell Hudson's name goes right up there with him. You know, he was the first, and there was only one first, and it was Wendell. And you know, he paved the way for the rest of us.
It means the world to me. You go back and you're around kids like that, young people like that, and you see what they did, but how much they care for you. And like this situation here, it means a lot to me just being a part of him.
What I found out about change, when I think what CM Newton found out about change, and what we all found out about my teammates, is that it's not bad. Now, it's hard for some people, but it's not bad. When you see me, what do you see? And I ask people that all the time. I mean, what do you see? If you just see a black man, then you don't see me. And I think that what the Ole Miss deal did when all of this stuff happened, it made all my teammates, they didn't see me as a black young man. I was their buddy, their friend. And once you become their friend and their buddy, and these people are mistreating your friend and you care about them, it changes the whole world.
And a reminder that next month is the AHSAA High School Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremonies in Montgomery. And again this week, we'll introduce you to a couple of the new inductees, Aaron Good and Steve Max.
I've always supported athletics because I think that it's very good for young people to be in athletics. I like to see kids doing things in the afternoon besides just hanging out. And I support the high school athletics.
St. Paul's Pistol School. Got into coaching because I felt like that's what my calling was going to be. I was a young guy and knew early on that's what I wanted to do. So I got into primarily the standard answer is the truth answer. I wanted to try to help people and try to help better their lives.
That's going to do it for this week's edition of the AHSAA Weekly. We'll see you back here next week.